My name is Stephen Everly. I am running for U.S. House of Representatives. Today, I'd like to talk about something that a lot of people wouldn't understand because the way it's approached to everybody on the news and in academic circles. It's called the MMT. That's Modern Monetary Theory. That's what we're in right now. When government prints money with nothing behind it, no gold, no silver, just the identity of a country that people accept the money as valuable when it's absolutely worthless. The more money we print, the greater amount of inflation that will end up making the money worthless. Now, inflation, to a certain degree, I believe in a slight uptick in inflation is good for the economy. Anywhere from 1 or 2% a year is livable. But we now are heading down the path of the Roman Empire, the Weimar Republic, that was the republic before Hitler in Germany. And when people have to take a wheelbarrow full of money to get a loaf of bread, to where 20, 30, to 50% of the population can't feed their families or do the common things that the 20th century has allowed us to do, especially the latter half of the 20th century, since World War II, actually. This is a hard thing for people to understand. If we do not quit the unbelievable print of money, when you print money and you cause inflation, what you do is you're stealing the value of people's property. You're stealing the value of their labor, especially anybody that's ever saved any money, paid anything off, lived within their means. These are the people that get punished. Everybody ends up getting punished. This is how we end up in socialism, then communism, always ends up in dictatorship. And where misery is spread so equally, we all are scraping for crumbs off the table. I'm a small businessman. I've seen some really tough times. In my life, I have been broke, lost everything twice in my life. I've had to sleep on print tables and job trailers because they wouldn't pay my expenses and I had to have a job. I slept in my car. I used to, in the past, I've done anything. We used to get, when I was in college, we'd go to where they threw the day-old bread when it was a week old. And we'd dig through it, and we lived on. You could get eggs, and if you didn't mind the bananas being overripe, at that time I'd be dumpster diving. And I was in college. I had a full-time job. It didn't pay shit. And this is the way me and some of my friends had to live just to make our way at the university. I see kids today, and they're not driving a car, they're not doing this or anything else. They can borrow as much money until they have to pay it back. Then if they have meaningless degrees, women's studies, when I was a young man, I studied women all the time. But I got married and raised kids. Now I'm studying grandchildren, trying to figure out how they work. But when it comes to the economy, I understand it very, very well. No one's talking about this. This MMT is modern monetary theory. And that means you can print money to the end of time because it it has value because the government says it has value. The Roman Empire, they took so much silver out of their money, it ended up being based on the value of a piece of lead, the size of what we would call a dollar. When I was in southern France, I was buying 360 AD coins for 50 cents a piece to $1 a piece. And the guy said, "You want all of them?" He said, "You give me $30, I'll sell you the jar, and I'll tell you the story about it." They found all these coins in the Roman city dump when excavators came out there to build a building. At first, everybody thought, we must have run into a cache, when they found out that the Romans themselves thought they to be worthless, and they threw them in the dump. When we went through the Civil War in this country, the Confederate government did the same thing. I remember my grandfather buying for $1 a total stack of Confederate bills, and he used them to wallpaper his chicken house to keep the wind out. They didn't last very long, but as he said, well, that was the greatest thing for the Confederacy, is it made picturesque wallpaper because it wasn't worth anything anyway. Neither was the Confederacy. He was a Northern Missourian, so he was not a fond of the slavery system. For you guys who don't know history, Missouri was cut in two. Northern Missouri, when I was a youth working in Arkansas and southern Missouri, they called me a Yankee because I was from, my relatives were from the northern Missouri. This money thing has been around. The Dutch lost their empire based on tulips. They were selling tulips around the world for a king's ransom, and all of a sudden they really realized it was nothing but a flower, and the entire economy collapsed in the Netherlands because they invested in tulips. Right now, the oil has had a negative worth value. Now, for people who don't understand this, we call it the greedy oil companies. They're a business. If they can make excessive profits, they will, but they can lose as much more than what they invested. They can lose everything they've got. They can end up losing their shirt right down to their underwear. I've been in these positions. I know how it feels. I don't think the government should bail me out, but neither do I think the government should close my business and tell me I can't operate. Now, for whatever reason, my small business has not had to do this yet. I'm of the age and have immune issues. I'm a diabetic, a cancer survivor, open heart surgery survivor, and I've survived many things. The story is about me is I've outlived 4 cats, and I'm working on number 5 because I've faced death many times, and God has chosen not to take me. That may change tomorrow, may change hopefully another 20 years, so I can help raise my grandkids to adulthood and share the information if they'll accept it from their grandfather who knows. I've learned from my grandparents and my parents. I hope my children have learned from me, and I hope I have an opportunity, as I had when I was a young guy, young 5 to 7 year old kid, following my grandfather around on his farm in northern Missouri. They lived a very Spartan life because they didn't have much income. At the time, they were living on $3,000 to $4,000 a year. They lived an uncomplicated life, probably a better life than me, because my life can be truly complicated. But I've worked in these foreign countries. Some of them, like Brazil and Argentina, print themselves into oblivion. Zimbabwe has done exactly the same thing. And we are on a breakneck speed of destroying the greatest country ever conceived by man or by God on this earth. Everybody expects government to do everything. Those who can't do for themselves should try to get the churches to help do for them. Charitable organizations. The government is not charity. Taxes, money the government gives. If they tax it, they have to take it away from somebody else to give it to the people they say that need it. We are actually being bribed by our own money that hasn't been made yet. That's what $22 to $24 trillion in debt is. If you add up even the retirement liabilities for all public entities, federal, state, county, municipalities, we're about $400 trillion in debt with nothing to back it with. And the only thing that's going to happen to us if we can't get a handle on this and pull back the reins of the spending alcoholics who are out there buying our votes with our money. Government doesn't have money unless they take it away. Two ways they take it: taxation or inflation. By printing money, they're taxing. I've tried to explain to people on Social Security. They give you extra money, well, that's great. It's just worth less. When the Soviet Union collapsed, retirees couldn't buy a loaf of bread with the amount of the money that the government gave them for their retirement. They had inflated the currency to the point that these people ended up living 20 to 30 people to a 2-room flat. I don't want that for my country. I don't want my country to end up being a third world nation. We are better than that. We're better people than that. We need someone in Washington who will say no and mean it. I hope I'm that person. I hope that you'll come out and vote for me in the primary, June 2nd. My name is Stephen Everly. I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives in the 2nd District. Please come out and support a common man with common sense. Thank you for hopefully listening to this plea. God bless you and all that you love, dear, and all the people around you, so they have a better life and a better life in the afterlife. Thank you.